Welcome everyone, welcome to Archiviews episode 4. So today we are joined by architect Anshuman Sharma, the chief architect of DesignInc. So before we get into a conversation with him, let me tell you a little bit about his life and about his firm.
Graduating from Malviya National Institute of Technology in 1996, architect Anshuman Sharma started his early career by working with Raj Rewal. Learning from one of the best architects of the century, he soon came back to Jaipur to start his own practice. He is not only a professional who is enthusiastic about his field, but he also actively participates towards the academic development of students in various institutes. The conversation with him today turned out to be one of the most informative about the field I've had till now.
So sir, before we could begin our interview, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about where you graduated and your journey after that?
Okay, so I graduated from what was then called Malviya Regional Engineering College, now obviously known as MNIT, which is Malviya National Institute of Technology. Graduated in the year 95 and I was the second batch which graduated from the college in architecture again.
So since you graduated and then you straight away opened your firm, or you went for?
So initially I worked for architect Raj Rewal in New Delhi, which was then quite a big name.
Yeah.
So is he now. I look at Mr. Rewal as one of my mentors because I've learned a lot from him. And because I was in Jaipur then, and I had time on hand, so I just spoke to one of my friends, and we opened a partnership firm, which was back in '96.
Okay.
In a single one room in my own house. So it was a room of 10 by 10, where the two of us used to sit with no projects in hand. So we were just whiling away our time then.
Okay, so let us now begin with our first segment. So the first segment is the PDF, or the practice, the design and the field. Alright, so sir, when you started your practice, how did you get your first project? So when you just started your firm, so how did it come to you, the project, and what was your approach to the project in terms of design and also in terms of money? Because when you're starting, you do not really know that much about how to charge and how to monetarily take your project forward.
My first break, or our first break, because it was a partnership from then, was quite interestingly a toilet work we got in one of the houses which was already built.
Okay.
So it so happened that one of my father's friends had come down for dinner, and my father introduced me as he's just graduated in architecture. And to my embarrassment, he said, "Why don't you build a toilet for us?" And I did not have any reaction then. I think I was more excited that this was the first project we are going to get to work on. Later we realized that we were not going to be paid one single rupee for that. So we did all we could. The toilet was built, the client was happy, and we finished our project with no fee in hand.
Okay.
So that was the first break. I think a few months later down the line, when we actually got what I still consider as my breakaway project, which is a traditional 5-star hotel project which we did in Ranthambore.
Okay.
Yeah.
When a client comes to you, how do you convince them of having a better design in their house rather than just a structure which they will live in?
See, we are looked upon as designers more as creators. So, people come to us, with a dream. We must understand that, people who come to us to build a house, most of them, are going to build that particular house or project once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So, it is their dream. And we are just, if I can say, we are just tools to ensure that, we make them realize their dreams.
Yeah.
By the same token, architects, what we do as a practice here is, we try to listen to our clients, and we try to absorb as much as we can. But our brief to the clients is simple, that, we are the architects, we will design it for you. Obviously, we will have discussions, in the journey from here on.
Yeah.
And we are open to any discussions and suggestions. But we try to ensure that the clients understand that they come to a professional who's going to provide them service and who's apt to do so. So we try to stick to that particular lineage. Yeah, interestingly, we have come across such clients, who get images from internet or from magazines. They said, this is the house we like to build.
Yeah.
I think that's where the core skills of an architect come into fore, which is not the designing and the conceptual part, which is also how an architect can convince his own client that what is good for him and what is not good for him.
Okay.
So there is a fine line we tread. The fine line says that you have to convince your architect in the politest of manners, so that he does not sort of feel that you are very, very arrogant. My architecture must not in any way sort of be in conflict with nature.
Yeah.
So that is something we really put our foot on pedal.
So what would be your advice to students who are starting out now to take the project as it is with the client, or take their responsibility as an architect forward as well while building it? So what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, so having traveled thus far, I can clearly understand where this question is coming from. We are always very excited to get that first project under our belt, and there are so many questions flying around that should I just give in to what the client is saying, or should I stamp my foot down to no, this is not going to happen this way, and I have to do it this way.
Yeah.
So that's again a fine line we are walking on. But as far as my advice to the young architects who are just walking out of college and into the field now, is that what you must understand is that you need more training in this field. So 5 years of college is something which earns you a degree, but thereafter you need to understand that you need to work in a practice which teaches you more than architecture. Now that practice or that office and the interaction with the senior architects and those at the junior level as well will teach you a lot.
Yeah.
You'll actually learn how to run an office. You will learn how to speak to vendors, which is very different from how one architect speaks to his clients.
Yeah.
So he may be very, very sort of submissive or even polite with his clients, but when he speaks to the vendors, he has a different tone.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are so many shades of an architect running his office. You see, he speaks to his structural guy very, very different, because that's where he's trying to stamp his authority. Look, I need this structure to be built like this.
Yeah.
I don't care how you do it. I need this structure to have sort of a cantilever of, let's say, I need this room to hang out 10 feet without any support. So there are so many shades an architect has to carry, and that you can only learn if you work under someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just open your own practice the next day you walk out of the college, you are going to work in your own shell. You haven't absorbed or grasped those skills which you would otherwise sort of attain or gather in
skills other than designing.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, architecture is more than just drawing and building. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was the end of the first segment. So, sir, now we'll move on to segment 2.
Yeah.
So in segment 2, we'll discuss a project of sir's, and then we'll ask some questions about it. So before we actually go on to asking sir questions, let us first have a look at the project.
The Dev Vilas Palace Hotel at Ranthambore National Park in Rajasthan is an amazing example of Rajputana ambience. Set with the backdrop of the Aravalis and overlooking the wildlife sanctuary, the hotel is made on a contoured land, thus giving rise to courts and terraces that overlook the sanctuary. The project follows a strong sense of symmetry and balance in its design.
So sir, could you tell us a little bit about the site and the brief that you got for the project?
Back then, this was the biggest project we got then. It was it was a 5-star hotel which we were to design for a client who came from a Rajput background, and he had a decent piece of land in Ranthambore. Then when we traveled to see the site, it was nothing but a base of a hilly area, and the site was differently shaped. It wasn't a rectangular, a square, or any normal shaped size. And when we visited the site, and the client had a very, very clear vision. So he wanted something to be built which could gel with the surroundings. And then he also shared his views that he was fascinated by Rajasthani architecture. And one of his biggest inspirations, which he always used to look at, was the Rambagh Palace Hotel in Jaipur. And that's where we got our clue from. So we thought, okay, we have to design this hotel in a manner which it appears to others that this is a traditional outfit. But if we look at the interiors, it's one of the most modern interiors back 10 to 12 years then. The second challenge was that this site was contoured, and we had to make an attempt to minimize the cost also. So we built according to the contoured site we got. So when you are in the hotel, and when you come out of the reception into the courtyard, what you see is the courtyard and the skyline beyond, which is the park. And then there's an axis. If you stand there, you look at the terrace of the dining and the swimming pool. So it so happened that everything just fell, the pieces fell into the right places, and it came out beautifully. I'm still proud of that project.
Okay. So how is the process of designing different in the field than it is in the classroom? And if you could help explain with the help of this project.
Very different. So what happens in a class is you're given a brief.
Yeah.
And the teachers always ask the students to work as per the brief given to them. And it's normally what I consider is not even 1/3 of what you go through designing a project and getting it up on its feet. For submission, you need to give it all floor plans, 2 elevations, 2 sections, maybe 1 3D perspective. At the third or the fourth year level, maybe you'll ask to build a model for the project. That's what you asked. So as I said, it's not even 1/3 of what you will actually do in a project. So what you are taught at college is, okay, you've done your concept, now try and do a working drawing. But working drawing has to be made in a particular manner, not what you sort of get taught at colleges. That's why my emphasis is so much on getting that training after the college, because in an office you will be made to understand, you will be sort of pushed that you make a staircase detail 10 times.
Yeah.
Because every time you come up with detail, your seniors above will point out, okay, this is still missing, or this is not right. And then you go back, and there are times you feel I've got pretty stuck in this 1 lakh square feet of building I'm making. They're just giving me one staircase to work upon. What the hell is this?
For my internship, I did a wardrobe for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because they kept correcting it.
Yeah, so that must tell you that how much detailing goes into making a project.
Yeah.
So much so that sometimes I ask my own staff people to give me sort of staircase, or for that matter nosing details, 3-4 options. Then they would stare at me, and then they would keep mumbling that what the hell is going around. But eventually they understand what we're trying to do.
Also in even the timeline, because we keep on designing for 6 months in a semester, but the timeline is greatly accelerated when you're working in the field. You do not get as much time as well. So this was one of the conversations I had at my internships as well. The chief architect at my office, she had told me that in school the reason they teach you designing is for 6 months is so that you can learn how to design properly, so that once you get out into the field you can use all that you've learned, and but you have to do it really fast. Because that is something that happened with me. Ma'am had given me a project. She had given me a small designing for a reception, and because I'd taken 2 days and I'd still not come up with a proper work. At the third day, she told me that finally the client sort of went away because we can't keep waiting for that long.
That's right. Yes.
So this is also something that comes into the picture, that when you're doing something for 6 months in college, you need to understand completely how to design it and design things well so that you can do it at an accelerated timeline when you're actually in the field. So concepts in the field, are they the same as in the classroom, or do they even exist in the field in the same way that they do in the classroom? So if you could, with the help of this project, if you could enlighten us about concepts in the field.
Yeah. To me, concept forms the spine of any project. So it's your first words you utter to the client that okay, this is what I have in mind for this project, for your project, for your dream project.
Yeah.
But unless you have a concept, you really cannot command a project.
Yeah. And so, but are they as abstract as one would do in the classrooms?
I won't say it's abstract, but certainly it shifts base. So it's something which keeps moving, keeps shuffling. But that is what we call the concept development.
Yeah.
So you see, as an architect, as a designer, you just cannot draw a particular thing and sit on it. Your mind always keeps working on it.
Yeah.
In design line, you never cease or you never stop thinking.
Yeah.
So unless it's literally you are sleeping, eating, and
it's even after the project is done. Like we hear about FL Wright, and even on his deathbed, he was thinking about falling water and how he could change it better. So that was the end of segment 2. So now we move on to segment 3. So segment 3 is all about questions that are related to the field of education. So that are primarily important for students who are still in architecture school or students who are looking towards architecture school. So this story, I think you already told us how you ended up studying. So it came up as a backup option when you could not get into DU.
Well, as I said, I was really looking forward to studying in DU. For what reasons I can't tell you, because I was just following the line which my seniors used to follow. Back those days we had this pre-engineering test examination, so we gone through that also.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to get through that and get into engineering. But the day the news was broken to me that I've gone through the merit list was the day I decided, okay, it's not going to be engineering, it has to be architecture. Now that was something which clicked then and then only.
Okay.
So that's how I went down, or I'm in this line now.
Alright. So traveling or internships, in your opinion, which would be better take our careers forward as architects during our summers?
Okay, so both are, to me, both are very, very contrasting things. Internship is something where you're honing your skills.
Yeah.
Not only, the skills of an architect, you're learning so much. Traveling is, or used to be a hobby. Now traveling for architects is something which you cannot do without. Because, I consider myself, if I talk about myself, I consider my brain to, have folders. So, there are different folders in my brains. And there is this folder which always I try to get images stored or imprints stored. Now those images, those imprints are of structures, of things which I see around.
Yeah.
Those are things which leave an indelible mark in my brain. Traveling teaches you, and it teaches you to no extent, because when you see new structures, when you see new places, even nature around you, it inspires you so much. Without inspiration, I think the world will be a dead place.
Yeah.
And traveling to me is something an architect at least must find time from his busiest of calendars and work it out how he's going to travel.
Okay. Any advice for current students of architecture?
You must have passion. The biggest thing architecture students need is passion for architecture. You can get admission into the college, the architecture colleges, and you can walk out with a degree. But unless you've got passion that what you really want to do in this field, you'll be just building concrete structures and nothing else.
Yeah.
Literally eat, sleep, and drink architecture. That's, if you have it in your blood, then your mind will always keep thinking on your project, and you'll be looked at upon times by your clients and by your vendors that he seems to be very, very confused.
Yeah.
Yesterday he just issued a drawing to us, and now today he's telling me just tear it off, I'm going to give you another one. But just don't listen to me. As long as you think that there's a better option to what you've already given yesterday, just go down that line.
So that was it for the interview. Thank you so much, sir, for this amazing interview here. So I would leave some links down below for DesignInc and also for Anshuman sir, so you can look at his practice as well. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel, and please share this video with as many people as you can. Please comment down below any questions, anything you have about this video or any other videos. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure, Rishabh. It was nice having you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.